What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a triple buffed Water Plus fighting team in the Open Great League with Shadow Poliwrath on Mudshot, Quaquaval on Wing Attack, and Urshifu on Waterfall. Now right off the bat you're probably looking at this team and thinking, bro, what the heck do you do up against Wigglytuff plus Jellicent? That's going to be like the most common core in the Go Battle League. Well, to be completely honest, I only saw it once whilst running this team, so I did get very fortunate in that sense, but actually most of the common cores that we've seen this season, I just didn't see today at all. I saw no Empoleon plus Altaria teams, I saw no Quagsire plus Corviknight or Fortress teams, so I don't really know what's going on with that. It feels like just last week, those were the only teams you were seeing in the Great League, but I guess that is a good thing. It means there is a bit more variety now. You might also be wondering why I'm not running Hydro Cannon on the Quaquaval, and the simple answer is that I literally just did not play its community day. However, I do feel like Aqua Step has a lot of play, as you'll see in some of these battles. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What do you think is the best dual typing to core break teams in the current Great League meta? Now do note this doesn't mean that a Pokemon with that typing is actually capable of core breaking teams. You could, for example, have the Ghost and normal typing of Hisuian Zoroark, where that typing is super strong, but actually Hisuian Zoroark is way too much of a glass cannon to actually be very good in the Go Battle League. But just let me know the ideal typing for the current meta, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Shadow Poliwrath into Galarian Weezing. Not a great matchup for the entire team, however, Poliwrath probably is best suited for this Pokemon, as we've got access to Mudshot. We can spam out Icy Winds, and if they don't throw straight away like they've done here, it means I can actually debuff them before they throw. Now, I don't expect a play rough. The opponent got a full send and overheat, which probably implies Brutal Swing is their secondary charge move. The opponent then going to catch the Icy Wind onto a Jellicent, which actually I really don't mind, as I need any chip damage I can get up against this Pokemon. We've already grabbed a shield advantage here, which pushes Quaquaval into a pretty decent position. Of course, Aqua Step really not going to do much damage, but the important thing is that we're going to ramp up our attack stat. And honestly, this Pokemon can get out of hand if you set it up like we've done here, where we've got both shields. We're now going to massively overfarm. If they end up shielding, well, we're going to get the KO anyways with the next charge move. So the opponent lets the move go through there. We get the KO, but we've got so much residual energy, and we already know, or at least we think, that they're not running Sludge on the Weezing, which means the opponent's gonna have to full send another overheat, which they don't get to. We're now gonna be 4 stages buffed. Aqua Step gets the KO there. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Sucker Punch Bombardier, which means I'm resisting the fast move damage. This is 4 times boosted. Aqua Step gets the one shot, and Quaquaval able to sweep a full team. So, GG's my mate. Into the next battle, we're going to see Wigglytuff in the lead. So, I did mention we only saw the Wigglytuff plus Jellicent core once across the 4 sets I did with his team, and this is actually going to be that battle. So, I go for Icy Wind first, as of course, looking to debuff their attack stat, and that does just barely allow me to reach a Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch not going to be shielded. The opponent probably expecting me to go for another Icy Wind bait there, and as a result, we take out the Wigglytuff. But they're now going to come in with a Jellicent, and this time around, we do not have that shield advantage. It's not going to be quite as comfortable as it was the previous time. However, we're still going to go for these Aqua Steps. Close combat is double resisted, and it also drops my defense by 2 stages, and we're actually able to grab a shield advantage there. Well, not a shield advantage, but at least grab a shield with the first one, which of course going to do the least amount of damage. The opponent clearly just doesn't know the charge moves on this Pokemon, as I believe we've only got resisted hits to throw across the board. But either way, we're going to go for another Aqua Step here. Unfortunately, this probably still doesn't quite get the KO, but it does grab the final shield, and I'm hoping it's going to be a Furret in the back. So I swap out, I catch the Shadow Ball, however, that does so much damage here. It is the Furret in the back, however, we're on Brick Break, we're not on Dynamic Punch. Brick Break is super effective, but the opponent able to commit to the farm down. And unfortunately, if they're on Trailblaze, it's game over. But the opponent goes for a Brick Break. We're able to hang on. They should have just gone for Swift, and we are just narrowly, with the skin of our teeth, able to go for an Aqua Step. Aqua Step gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. I said skin of our teeth there. Skin on my teeth. I actually don't really know what the phrase is or what it even means. Either way, GG to that trainer there. We are going to see a 2-cannon in the lead. That is not a great matchup for me. However, the opponent may be anticipating a potential catch attempt. Does not throw immediately. We get off the Icy Wind, and we're just going to take that shield advantage there. Of course, we will lose CMP the next time around, so not going to bother shielding there. We come in with the Urshifu, and I'm going to look to shield this time around. The opponent going to go for a Beat Blast there, but that does use a lot more energy than the Drill Peck. So now I'm just going to bank the energy, come in with the Quaquaval. The opponent full sends a Shadow Ball, but that will now allow me to reach a close combat just before they get to a Body Slam. We go for a slight undercharge. Unfortunately, that does still get the KO there. I was hoping to farm down with the Urshifu. However, they come in with a Alola Marowak, and I'm able to reach an Aqua Step. And of course, this is not Hydro Cannon. It's not going to get the KO there, and it doesn't quite put them into Waterfall farm down range either. However, remember, the Toucannon did just full send a Beak Blast. We've now got back-to-back charge moves. Brick Break grabs the final shield. We can now full send an Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet would get the KO even without a debuff there. But either way, we Waterfall, farm down the Alola Marowak, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's on there, into the next battle, we're going to see a Linoon in the lead, so that is quite a cool pick here. I know this Pokemon can have access to both Grass Knot or Thunder, depending on what they want to run. They are likely going to be running Swift as the bait charge move though, however, so I'm going to shield here, just play it safe, and let's see the opponent is going to full send a Grass Knot. So now I can look to overfarm just a little bit here and fire off another Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch, going to be shielded, it is a CMP tie. This should just be a Swift, however, this time around, so I'm going to no shield. The opponent committing to a farm down, they're not going to get it, so instead they end up catching a Dynamic Punch where it's double resisted onto Togetic. That is certainly not ideal for me at all, but I can reach an Aqua Jet before they do get to a potential Dazzling Gleam. Aqua Jet going to deal decent damage here. The opponent is going to throw, and at this point I'm just going to let Urshifu go down. They actually bait with a Heat Wave, which I really don't understand at all, but let's see what their final Pokemon is. They're going to come in with a Tinkaton, and here I probably should just go for an Aqua Jet because I feel like the opponent is quite likely to just swap out and clear any debuffs here, but we're going to come in with the Quaquaval. They come back in with the Linoon, and here I'm in a tricky situation. If they bait me like they do, I need to farm up to back-to-back close combats, and unfortunately I'm just narrowly not quite there yet. The opponent full sends the Grass Knot. Grass Knot gets the KO. If I went for close combat slightly sooner than that, unfortunately even a Bulldoze from the Tinkaton would KO, so unfortunately they can just Shadow Claw, farm down the rest of my team, but GG's to that trainer. Very well played. Into the next battle, going to see a Knocked Out in the lead. Not a great matchup for me, but at least this time, unlike up against the Toucannon, we can outpace them to these charge moves. So I'm going to go for the Icy Wind. Icy Wind, not quite going to be enough damage to two-shot them. However, if I do land another Icy Wind, I can probably snipe with either one of my Pokemon in the back. So just going to throw the Icy Wind straight away here. If they do end up shielding, I'm just going to stay in and force them to throw their energy. The opponent, I believe, does overfarm maybe slightly here. Either way, just going to no shield. Sky Attack gets the KO. I'm now going to come in with the Quaquaval, and the opponent swaps out immediately into Greedent, very much likely not expecting a second fighting type, and as a result, close combat gets the one shot. I expect they'll just come back in straight away with the Knocked Out, so I'm going to swap out into my Urshifu. The opponent is able to outpace me here. However, if they've thrown straight away, I should be able to fully Waterfall farm them down just before they reach the next charge move, and I'm able to do exactly that. Their final Pokemon going to be a Quagsire. Now, a lot of Quagsire are now running Mud Bomb rather than Stone Edge, but either way, we're still in a really good position. We go for the Brick Break bait. I'm now going to go for the Aqua Jet, grab the final shield, and I might as well just swap out here. I don't want to give them too much energy. At this point, we can still live a Mud Bomb. If they were running Earthquake, that could be quite catastrophic for me, but they're not. And of course, we can now reach the close combat here. I got it wrong twice there. I was about to say Dynamic Punch, and then Brick Break, but nope, that is close combat. It gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's on there, into the next battle, we're going to see Berserker in the lead. They're going to say swap into a Shadow Dusknoir. We don't have a great response, so I'm actually just going to stay in and fire for the Icy Wind. Icy Wind going to be shielded by the opponent, and now they're actually allowing me to reach another Icy Wind before they throw any energy. So at this point, they are double debuffed here. I'm going to come in with the Urshifu, but I'm actually going to shield anyways, as I feel like they will full send a Dynamic Punch, and they do exactly that. And unfortunately, they do reach a second Dynamic Punch before we do get the full farm down. They're now going to come in with an Altaria, and unfortunately, my Poliwrath is fairly low, and Poliwrath is pretty much my only answer to Altaria on this team, and they also just barely fully Dragon Breath farm me down. So we're going to come in with the Quaquaval. I'm going to swap out, and I'm able to at least force them to throw some energy here. They don't really overfarm by much at all. Sky Attack gets the KO. They come back in with Berserker, and here I have to full send a close combat. Of course, this will get the one shot, but it does drop my defense, and now can I actually take out the Altaria before they fully Dragon Breath farm me down? This does grab the final shield. I boost up my attack stat. If we get to close combat, we win this game, but unfortunately, because I'm debuffed in my defense, they commit to the Dragon Breath farm down, which was the correct decision, as they barely get the farm down to take that game. But GG's to our trainer, very well played. Into next battle, we are going to see Credilli in the lead. Now, I could go for an Icy Wind, but Dynamic Punch gonna hit for huge damage, unfortunately, just barely not getting the KO there, which does mean I will now shield as they full send a Grass Knot. But now they swap into a Shadow Swampert. This is fine with me, so I'm gonna go straight for Icy Wind. We've already full sent a Dynamic Punch, so this time we end up grabbing a shield. And now, unless they're running Earthquake here, I should be able to tank whatever they throw. They go for Sludge, which I'm able to tank there because of the debuff. And now I'm going to full send the Dynamic Punch. We're able to grab the shield there. We're now going to come in with the Quaquaval, and the opponent is going to throw some energy. I'm going to no-shield the first hit. Unfortunately, I don't really want to full send a close combat, so I'm going to go for the Aqua Step. Honestly, maybe I could have gone for a slight undercharge there just to get some more energy, but either way, I'm now going to shield this. The opponent goes for Sludge. We get the full farm down. Their final Pokemon going to be Typhlosion. They had to try and swap out and make a catch there, but it's basically impossible to do with Incinerate as the fast move, which means we can now full send close combat. That easily gets the one shot, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to win there, into next battle. I'm going to see Medicham in the lead. So, not the best matchup for me, but honestly not that bad either, as we can go straight for an Icy Wind and look to debuff their attack stat. The opponent very likely just going to no-shield this. Doesn't do much damage, but now actually don't mind swapping out into my Quaquaval, where of course, wing attacks are going to hit for super effective damage. I'm going to go for an Aqua Step here. Hydro Cannon should KO from this range, so we're probably going to grab a shield anyways, where I think Aqua Step actually wouldn't get the KO at all. But now, of course, I'm boosted in my attack stat. They bait with an Ice Punch, which actually doesn't really make a huge difference because now I can just no-shield this. If they outpace me, it means it's just another Ice Punch, which of course is just resisted damage. Then I'm going to come in with a Fire, and I'm able to farm up to back-to-back close combats here before throwing. First one, going to grab the final shield, and now we can full send. We're already boosted. We don't need the boost for this matchup. Close combat gets the one shot. They've got another fighting type in the back, another normal type in the back, where Dynamic Punch is going to deal huge damage. They also full send a Shadow Ball, which means I can now look to massively overfarm here. I didn't really need to do this, but either way, Dynamic Punch gets the one shot, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into next battle. I can see Shadow Toxicroak in the lead. So this, again, is not that bad for me, as I've got access to Icy Wind. I can debuff their attack stat, but they actually swap out and catch the Icy Wind onto a Shadow Jump Fluff, which I'm definitely not going to complain about, as now we can come in, go straight for the Aqua Step. This is resisted damage, but from this range, that will certainly get the KO, and now, of course, I'm boosted. They're going to come back in with the Shadow Toxicroak here. I don't know what their third Pokemon is going to be, so I'm actually just going to shield this, as I can now outpace them just barely here to the next Aqua Step. Aqua Step is going to be no-shielded, but their final Pokemon is going to be a Shadow Toucannon, and here, maybe this is a mistake here. Throwing a charge move when I don't think I'm going to get to 2 more moves is probably a mistake. I was already boosted by 2 stages, I believe. I should have just committed to an extra wing attack. You're going to see this actually going to come down to the wire here, as I'm going to swap out. I tried to catch a charge move, but the opponent, very smartly, going to look to overfarm. They throw just before we get to the charge move. Drill Peck gets the KO, and you can see we get them incredibly low. If we just threw one more wing attack, we could have got the farm down, but Drill Peck from Shadow Toucannon gets the KO, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But once again, very well played by the opponent. GG's to that trainer. Into next battle, we're going to see a Skeledirge in the lead. Now, despite the fact that we are, of course, triple water, Poliwrath is going to struggle a lot against Skeledirge, as we've only got resisted charge moves to throw. They're now going to come in with a second Incinerate user, this time in the form of Gourgeist, but we do have we've got quite a lot of energy here, and we're already boosted. Now, can we go for a full wing attack farm down before they get to the next Seed Bomb? It's going to be close. It looks like we just barely miss out here, so I am forced to throw some energy. But we go for Aqua Step. Aqua Step is going to get the KO. They come back in with a Skeledirge, but they don't overfarm at all. They go for Torch Song. That barely doesn't get the KO there. So now I'm going to come in with the Urshifu. I'm going to shield here, as the opponent, of course, can full send a Shadow Ball. They bait with another Torch Song, but their final Pokemon is going to be a third Incinerate user. But unfortunately for them, we've got so much residual energy. Arcajet grabs the final shield, but we can throw a second one straight away. Arcajet number 2 gets the KO there. We can Waterfall, farm down the Skeledirge, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's on there. Into next battle, we're going to see a Shadow Kanto Marowak in the lead. So this is going to be a fine matchup here. However, of course, if the opponent wants to, they can double shield and just fully farm me down. I'm not going to commit any shields here. A Shadow Poliwrath, despite the fact that we are in a Shadow form, should still barely be able to get to 2 Icy Winds here before they fully commit to a farm down. The opponent is going to shield the first. They can technically live the next Icy Wind here, and the opponent is going to no shield. It does get them very low. Unfortunately, not quite in range, but a single Waterfall will KO either. So I actually come in with the Quaquaval instead, and we've already got a shield advantage. I might as well full send a close combat. Close combat, not shielded, but they barely hang on. That is insane bulk there from the Licky Licky. That is such a shame. However, I'm able to swap out there, clear the debuff from that close combat, catch just a body slam there, but unfortunately, they're going to have a Jellicent in the back. Now again, we do have a shield advantage here. We've now got all shields down on the Jellicent end, but they do have a charge we've loaded, and unfortunately they go for the undercharge. They then come back in and they're able to get to the charge. That is not ideal for me. Maybe I should have let the Bone Club go through, knowing that, of course, a Shadow Ball will deal less damage. However, if I no shield, they can just start settling for Surfs, whereas, of course, if I shield there, they now have to full send the Shadow Ball. Now, can we deal enough damage here? That is the question. I'm going to shield the Shadow Ball. I'm now going to look to try and throw on CMP. Close combat is double resisted, but it does do marginally more damage, but still just barely not quite enough damage to take out the Jellicent, and a Shadow Ball certainly gets the KO there, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up in there into the next battle. We're going to see Gorgeist in the lead. So this is going to be a matchup where actually I don't mind it too much, as of course, if I just shield the first charge move, we can then spam out these Icy Winds, debuff their attack stat, and I should actually live a Seed Bomb. But the opponent actually going to clear the debuff straight away, and unfortunately coming in with a second Pokemon that does very well into the entire team, but we do have the energy advantage. The opponent, honestly, I think they might have lagged there a little bit. Either way, I'm taking advantage of it. I go for Dynamic Punch number 2, and I'm able to grab the final shield. However, we are fairly low. I still probably want to shield anyways, as I just want to get rid of the Lantern. We don't really have any way of fast move farming them down with my backline, so I might as well just go for another Dynamic Punch. Now here, I do make a pretty significant mistake. I'm going to shield this. I forgot they'd already thrown 3 Incinerate, so I shield here expecting to get to an Icy Wind, but nope, they're already at Seed Bomb number 2, and unfortunately, at this point, I've only got resisted charge moves to throw. We do have Wing Attack, which is super effective. However, it's non-stab. We're not boosted just yet, so we're not dealing much damage at all. I'm going to swap out to catch a Seed Bomb here. I don't know if that necessarily helps me at all, and unfortunately, that puts me into perfect range where they can just barely Mud Slap snipe me with the Shadow Kanto Marowak, and even worse, Aqua Step just narrowly missing out on getting the KO. I don't think this matters too much, as a Seed Bomb would KO anyways, and once again, it comes down to whether a double resisted close combat from the Quaquaval can KO a Ghost-type Pokemon, and unfortunately, it's the same result. We just barely miss out on the knockout, and of course, Seed Bomb takes out the Quaquaval, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's top in there into the next battle. We see another Shadow Kanto Marowak in the lead. So this Pokemon seems to be making a bit of a resurgence now. Maybe people realize that actually, because Mudslap was nerfed, a lot of people are just completely disrespecting it. So maybe the Kanto Marowak does have a lot more play than people think. Either way, we're still in a great position here, as I can no shield. And again, we can go for the Icy Wind. Icy Wind, again, as we've already seen, won't quite get the KO there. But again, unfortunately, I don't think we will be able to snipe them with the waterfall damage, so we actually come in with the Quaquaval instead, and the opponent actually just swaps out there, clearing the double debuff and into a Shadow Celio. I'm now going to go for a close combat here, just guarantee the KO. The opponent not going to bother shielding. I'm then going to look to swap out straight away, as I don't know what the final Pokemon is. The opponent is going to come back in with the Marowak, but we get the waterfall through as we swap out there, which we shouldn't really be able to do. But either way, it doesn't really matter. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Shadow, a little in Sand Slash, and this should be game over. We go for Brick Break. Brick Break is going to drop the defense there. It doesn't really make a huge difference. Close combat or a Brick Break is still going to get the one shot. We actually no shield this. They bait, and they realize it's GG's, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's up in there into the next battle. You can see Tinkaton in the lead. So this is probably where we want to see it for this team, just because once again we do have Mudshot, which is going to hit for super effective Super effective damage, what the heck. We are now going to go for a dynamic punch there, and the opponent makes a really smart play here. They know that they're in range where Icy Wind will KO. There's no reason for me to full send a dynamic punch, and as a result, they end up swapping out and catching it onto Lapras where it is double resisted. Really smart play there. And of course, Tinkaton, its energy wasn't that useful into Poliwrath, so might as well just save it. Of course, they don't know that I've got 3 of the exact same Pokemon, but they full send a Skull Bash, which is not ideal for me at all. Brick Break already not going to deal that much damage, but dealing even less damage after they boosted their defense there. Of course, I've now brought it back down to the regular defense stat there, but either way, we're going to come in with the Quaquaval, and I know this probably isn't going to be a Skull Bash anymore, but I do need to start shielding something. Of course, I know that I do resist the Gigaton Hammer from the Tinkaton, so we're going to shield here. We go for Aqua Step, we boost up our attack stat, and they come in with a Guzzlord. Now, I'm just going to full send a Close Combat here. Close Combat is going to be shielded by the opponent. I'm able to swap out, catch likely a Brutal Swing onto my Shadow Poliwrath, as I was just debuffed there, but that's going to be GG's here. Unfortunately, not a lot I can do, so I might as well just no shield this. That catch onto Lapras honestly won them the game there and then. The opponent gets the Dragon Tail farm down, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But once again, GG's to a trainer. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Pangoro in the lead. So this is going to be a positive matchup for me. I expect them to go for a close combat and dip. So I actually go for the Icy Wind, but they bait with a Night Slash, which means they're very unlikely to shield the next charge as well, expecting maybe a bait on my end. So I'm actually forced to swap out of that matchup. And despite the fact that I did just debuff them, I'm actually going to shield anyways. The opponent full sends the close combat this time around before coming in with the Tinkaton. Now, of course, I'm going to go for an Aqua Step first. Aqua Step is going to hit for neutral damage. It doesn't really deal too much damage there, but now I can full send the close combat. Not only that, it's a CMP tie, and we end up grabbing a shield from the Tinkaton. The opponent is actually going to go ahead and full send a Gigaton Hammer, easily getting the knockout there. We can come in with the Poliwrath and look to throw on CMP. Once again, we win CMP. Dynamic Punch gets the KO there, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They come back in with the Pangoro, but we just snipe them with the Urshifu, their final Pokemon. Gonna be a Diggersby, and that should be game over. We can go for Brick Break here. We don't really need to go for a bait, but of course, if I go for Brick Break, I can debuff their defense stat. These waterfalls are gonna start adding up. They go for a Fire Punch bait, which does actually allow them to outpace me to a Scorching Sands. However, Urshifu, not exactly bulky, but we can tank a Scorching Sands. We can reach the Aqua Jet, and of course, super effective damage. It takes out the Diggersby, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's on there. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Trevenant in the lead. So, not a great matchup for me, but once again, probably where we do want to see it here. I'm hoping that by the time I go for the Icy Wind and debuff their attack stat, maybe I can tank the next Seed Bomb. So, I'm going to shield the first here, as it is going to do more damage. We go for the Icy Wind, grab a shield there from the Trevenant, and hopefully we can now live this. Seed Bomb, of course, not exactly the hardest hitting charge move ever. Seed Bomb barely does not get the knockout. You don't actually see how much damage that does, but Icy Wind, it's going to connect. You can see we are literally on 1 HP and a dream. We swap out, and the opponent, once again, probably just not expecting another water and fighting type Pokemon. They just go for Rock Slide there because they wanted to get that off before we throw, but now we can actually just go for an Aqua Step. I was going to full send a close combat, wasn't sure if that would quite get the one shot, whereas now, because they went for the Rock Slide bait, we can go for a second Aqua Step. Aqua Step gets the KO there. Their final Pokemon, gonna be a Medicham, and I'm already double boosted. We go for an Aqua Step. I'm hoping they will throw some energy. However, the opponent not doing that, instead committing to a full farm down. This is just a little bit scary. I'm going to shield the first move here, as I do expect them to full send a Dynamic Punch, and if I no shield that, they can just start going for Ice Punches, but now we go for a swap there at the same time as the opponent, predicting they would try and catch onto Trevenant, and now at this point, it's GG's. Aqua Jet will be enough damage to take out the Medicham, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top on there. Into the next battle, I see Shadow Abomasnow in the lead. So, this is going to be a slightly awkward matchup on both ends here. Dynamic Punch is going to deal big damage in this matchup, of course. Energy Ball is also going to deal big damage. Probably gets the one shot here. So, I'm definitely going to shield, respect the damage, as the opponent is going to go ahead and full send it. We can now look to overfarm just a little bit, but the opponent going to make a very nice catch there, catching it where it's resisted damage onto a Charge Bug. Now, technically, I can throw an Aqua Jet on CMP. I thought maybe the opponent would try and overfarm here, in which case I did not want to throw it on alignment, but in the end they don't end up doing that. So here I probably should go for a slight undercharge, because Brick Break gets the KO. Honestly, I didn't think it would, whereas now they're going to come in with the Miltank, and I'm just going to throw it on CMP. Brick Break, again, super effective, but they can tank that pretty comfortably, and I don't really have any fast food pressure with the rest of my team. So I'm going to look to come in with the Quaquaval as the opponent comes in with the Abomasnow. I'm able to make the catch here onto my Shadow Poliwrath. However, I don't think I've quite got enough energy on the Quaquaval. I need to bait with the Aqua Step, and actually, this is actually fine anyways, as of course, Wing Attack is now going to be boosted. But can we get to another move? Unfortunately, just barely not able to do so. And as a result, this will be another Energy Ball, which easily takes us out there. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up there into, I believe, the final battle of this video, leading into a Diggersby. So great lead, but unfortunately met with a Jellicent Say Swap, which of course is a Pokemon that is very troublesome for this team. However, we do have the energy advantage. I'm going to go for an Icy Wind, and I don't exactly need Switch advantage, as I have 3 Pokemon that can deal with Diggersby quite comfortably. So they full send the Shadow Ball. I'm now going to go for a second debuff here, which means I will actually be able to tank a Shadow Ball pretty comfortably with the Quaquaval. So we're going to come in, we're going to no-shield the first move here. If they do choose to stay in, then I probably will shield the next Shadow Ball, as of course that will do a lot of damage, but they're actually going to come in with Azumarill. This is another Pokemon that seems to be everywhere just a week ago, whereas now I only saw one of them in the 4 sets I did with this team. Either way, we're going to go for another Arc Step. Again, not really going to deal too much damage here, but our Wing Attacks are starting to add up. Now, unfortunately, we are getting very low to the point where even Bubbles might be in danger of farming us down. So I swap out, I catch the next Ice Beam onto my Urshifu, where again, it is going to be resisted. Of course, they could have gone for Play Rough there, and that would have got the KO, but we were so low on the Quaquaval. Now, unfortunately, we don't quite get the knockout here before they get to a Play Rough. So, of course, I'm going to look to throw it on CMP. I'm now going to shield this anyways, because I don't have much HP remaining on any of my Pokemon. They come back in with the Jellicent. We go straight for the Arc Jet. Arc Jet gets them fairly low. I tried to force the energy here on my Poliwrath, and unfortunately not quite able to fully Mudshot farm them down, but we do put them into range where of course we can Wing Attack farm them down. But we're going to come back in with the Urshifu, get a slight energy advantage, and now we can go for the Arc Jet. Arc Jet might end up grabbing a shield here. We barely outpace them before they get to a Fire Punch, and the opponent will still need to throw some energy, so we still have play here. I can't quite remember how much HP the Azumarill has in the back, so I do overfarm quite a bit here. We go for Close Combat. Close Combat gets the KO, and we're able to Wing Attack farm them down to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.